Well, the committee has disrespected Indiana in their first two playoff rankings, but would they pay them the ultimate disrespect?
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, where you can get a big return. New customers place a $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We'll do a G5 check-in because far be it from me to forget that the G5 team's making the playoff. I've been reminding everybody of that all the way back in March is when I began that on the show. And, well, you know, everyone's kind of starting to realize it now, and the G5 playoff push is heating up. We'll have Big Ten picks, but we'll start with Indiana. That's Jacob Goins of Locked On Indiana Hoosiers. So I want to start here, Jacob, but I want to get into the weeds on it. I don't think the committee would leave out an 11-1 Indiana. I don't think they would. The problem is I'm not saying that with 100% certainty. I'm saying it with like 85% certainty that a road loss against Ohio State next week and then a win against Purdue would not drop them out from being an at-large. But then Heather Dinich was talking on ESPN the other day, and you should not direct your ire at Heather because I think she was reporting what is just factually correct, which is you can't rule out a 9-3 SEC team based on what the committee's done so far. How important do you think the final two games and how they look and how the committee perceives Indiana are for the Hoosiers' playoff hopes?
Oh, I mean, it's everything is the way that I've described it. Is Indiana, look, you've done great things up to this point. You've beaten everybody on your schedule. All of them but one were by 14 or more points. And yeah, you struggled against Michigan, but that's the best defense you've played all season long. And there's nothing wrong with a gritty win in this year's college football. But that's all fine and dandy. You've got one game now that defines your season. If you want to claim that you are back, if you want to claim, well, that you're just here, right? And
why don't we go with here instead of back? Indiana hadn't had a 10-win season before this year. Let's go with here.
Okay. All right. I'll pump the brakes a little bit. If you want to claim that you are here, then you put everything into the Ohio State game, and you have an entire bye week to get ready for that Ohio State game. You're going to blow the doors off of Purdue. They're one of the worst teams I've seen in my lifetime. So Indiana has one game to define it all, right? It's like it's out of a movie, man. You've got, like, it's the Tim Tebow, right? We've got however many minutes for the rest of your life. Like, you've got one game that will put you in the college football playoff. I would like to agree with you that if Indiana cannot win that game, that we would still be a playoff team. But what does the committee decide to do? Do they decide to look at an SEC team and say, well, Georgia has beaten, Texas and only has losses to really good teams? Or do they look at just wins overall rather than who they're against? That's where Indiana's going to fall into a category that we just don't know what it is because it's a brand new year with a brand new 12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, and the unknown quality of this is why I think it's worth discussing, because just say the stuff out loud. 11-1 Indiana that doesn't have a Big Ten championship game appearance, let alone a win, against 10-2 Georgia. What if it comes down to those two resumes, Jacob? Georgia's played a tougher schedule, but they would have lost twice in this hypothetical, assuming they can beat Tennessee this weekend, which I think they will, whether Nico plays or not. But that's the concern I have. Is my takeaway so far from the first two rankings is it's the same inconsistent crap that the college football ranking people have given us for a very long time, where it's like, wait, you can put Texas ahead of SMU because they play in a tougher conference. That's fine. Can you explain to me why they are 11 spots different when SMU's lone loss is by 3 points to the current undefeated Big 12 favorite, BYU Cougars? Why is that the case?
Why is Penn State where they are?
That is a great question. Penn State is good, not great.
They've rewarded them for losing to Ohio State. They said, man, you guys played a really tough game, Penn State. Good for you. You're a top 5 team. Are you kidding me? Their best win against Illinois is going to end up 8-4 on the year. Like, that's not something that we need to reward them for. And look at Texas. Their best win is Vanderbilt, Spencer, Vanderbilt. What are we doing, man? The College Football Playoff Committee, it's a joke. I've said it forever. You've got a room full of people who have college affiliations, by the way, who are literally working for universities that are trying to be represented in the College Football Playoff. They sit in a closed door in a closet with each other. They sip. What Paul Feinbaum said the other day, they're sipping on champagne and ordering hors d'oeuvres, and they just do whatever they want, and they don't really have to explain themselves. It's a joke, and here we are. Makes for good content, I guess, but in terms of trying to figure out what the heck's going to happen, we have no idea.
Yeah, and you would hope that Indiana is given the same leeway as Penn State if they were to lose to Ohio State this week. But then
we know that's not true.
That's kind of my sense, is at the very least, I don't think they get rewarded in the same way that Penn State did. And I worry. Again, I want to make this very clear. Indiana should be into the playoff. They win 11 games. I think you win 11 games in any Power 4 conference, Big 12, ACC included in there. I think you should be into the college football playoff. 100%. I think we're seeing that 10-2 SEC should have plenty of value. It should not have the same attractive, oh my gosh, this team is so good quality to it that we would have thought before the season. I've watched the SEC all year. It's still a really good conference. It's still really deep. There are a bunch of really good teams. Don't sit there and tell me that's the same that it used to be, because it simply is not.
But what's so crazy is to watch and see the SEC bias that they received for so long is just awkwardly now with the Big Ten. I mean, look at the current rankings. 4 of the top 5 teams are out of our conference. And look, I love it. We're a top 5 team. You've got Penn State in there. You just heard my thoughts on that. Ohio State is still right there at 2, even though they lost in Oregon. So I don't know. I don't understand where this Big Ten bias has come from. I'm cool with it. I'm happy about it. Just seems a little fake to me. And I feel like they're going to pull the rug out from people like Indiana when this thing is all said and done.
It would cause an uproar, I think, even greater than what happened with Florida State last year, which was far more justifiable than leaving 11-1 Indiana out of the playoff. I don't think they do it, Jacob. I mean, Indiana's sitting there at number 5. If they go to Ohio State and lose by, let's say, 10 points, let's say the final score is 27-17, and Indiana is going to fall to where in the rankings exactly?
15, maybe? I don't know.
Because here's the conundrum. Can every 10-2 SEC team get into the college football playoff? Can they all make it? I don't think the answer is yes. You're going to have to do an actual resume comparison between those SEC teams and Indiana, who doesn't have a very strong Big Ten schedule. They play Ohio State, but Michigan's not as good as some people thought they'd be before the year. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Penn State. And they don't even play Iowa. So I just wonder if that comes back to bite them. I really hope not. I really, truly hope not. But the more I think about it, the more I say, I don't have a 100% confidence interval that the committee will do the right thing there.
They'll never do it, but I hope that next week in the college football playoff committee ranking selection show, the whole beauty pageant thing that they do on Tuesday nights, I hope that they come out and they just flat out say, Indiana, you beat Ohio State, you're in. If you lose, you're out. I mean, honestly, I don't want that much pressure on Indiana, because even if we lose, I still think we deserve it. But at least give us some sort of an answer and be like, here's what needs to happen for this team, or for Tennessee, or for Georgia, or for Bama, or for Penn State, or for anybody that's still in the balance of, hey, are we making the playoffs or not? Oregon, you're good, right? Teams like that are okay. But in terms of all the other teams that may or may not win their conference championship game, some sort of roadmap on how to get there, that'd be kind of nice.
Indiana doesn't play this week. A lot of other teams in the Big Ten do. Will we see chaos there? Is it like the ACC? It's going to be chaos or boredom? Well, how much chaos could we see? Oh, Jacob is ready. Jacob's ready. Big Ten picks coming up next. First, you love steak, I love steak, and that's why we're talking about Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off the gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Check them out at omahasteaks.com. Let's pick every game in the Big Ten. Nebraska's got a new offensive coordinator. They're going to USC. On paper before the season, Jacob, I thought this would be a game between teams not pushing for the playoff or a conference championship, but that were striving to be in that clear second tier, top of the second tier of the Big Ten. Yeah, it hasn't gone that well. Nebraska's lost 3 games in a row. USC can't win a close game in the fourth quarter. Trojans are at home, favored by 8.5 points. Dana Holgorsen is the offensive coordinator for Nebraska. Is that fixing everything for Matt Rule here? I don't think I trust that transition to take over right away. I do think 8.5 is too many, according to our friends at FanDuel. I'll take USC 23-20 over Nebraska here.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it all year long, especially in our Big Ten squad shows where, man, in this league, heck, in this year of college football, being favored by a touchdown or more against a conference opponent just seems like a lot, especially with 2 teams that are just not good. Nebraska, USC, I mean, they're fighting to be 500 on either side of this thing. I will take USC to win, but I'm with you. I think it's close. Give me something ugly like 21-20. I mean, I'll take the Trojans to win at home, but I'm not taking anybody by a touchdown right now.
Let's go to the game at Wrigley Field. And this is Ohio State going to Northwestern. Stadium is still under construction. I'm sure it'll be beautiful, but this is being played in a baseball stadium. I think that's weird, which is why this game will have a weird feel to it. That Northwestern defense has its moments. That Northwestern offense, it really does not. It really did. And against this Ohio State defense that I think is dialed in right now, I don't think they're getting to double digits, but I don't know if Ohio State is going to cover that big old fat number in there. I think the Buckeyes win 27-6. They handle Northwestern.
Yeah, this being played at Wrigley Field, lots of good social media videos. They've got the names written on the old-time scoreboard and the signs outside. I mean, it's a really, really cool event happening this weekend at Wrigley. Is Ohio State going to get caught looking ahead, Spencer? Are they worried about the Hoosiers next week? No, they're fine. They're going to take care of Northwestern. As good as their defense has been, you mentioned it, man, their offense is brutal to watch. It should be illegal to have to watch them play on television. I'm taking Ohio State big. Give me the Buckeyes 40-10. They're going to roll against Northwestern.
Well, the good news is even though that's big noon kickoff, isn't it? Yeah.
It's 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, but it's on the Big Ten Network. So,
okay, so not the big noon kickoff, but still right. A noon kickoff that's causing some gripes in certain circles. Why are we always playing early? I don't know. You're Ohio State, and doesn't matter who you're playing. Television networks want to put you on TV in a certain window because a lot of people will watch. But how about the Friday night game? This is an interesting one because UCLA, inexplicably, in my view, is playing good football right now. Ethan Garbers is settled in. The defense is playing well. Washington's too tough of a team to beat at home. Did you see Washington's helmets, Jacob?
No.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Are they good or bad?
They are so good. They are so thoroughly good.
From you, who is a neutral college football.
Yes, I am indeed. Neutral arbiter of college football, completely unbiased in all takes forever and always. Matte black helmets. Crispy. Purple W on the side with a gold face mask. It's so good. It's so thorough. I can't pick against those helmets, man. I really can't. Those might be my favorite helmets in college football this weekend.
I'm going to look them up as soon as we're done, but I'm still not picking UCLA. Washington at home in Seattle, man. It's just weird things happen on a Friday night too. Yeah, I'll take I'll take Washington here. Are we a fan of Friday night Big Ten football, Spencer? How are we feeling about? I mean, we got games nowadays on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well,
Thursday.
I don't think there's been a truly great game yet. This one I think will be competitive. I've got Washington winning 24-20. They haven't lost at Husky Stadium yet this year. Michigan came close, but ultimately came up short. I think UCLA's run comes to a close here, and they're fighting for bowl eligibility down the stretch with USC and Fresno State left on the schedule. But this is the last time Washington will play at home. They've got a bye. Then they travel to Eugene to play Oregon in a couple weeks. So I think Washington gets it done. But speaking of a game that has kind of a Friday night feel in that it's college football, it's interesting, you will watch, but maybe doesn't have the biggest stakes in the world. Illinois against Michigan State. I've got the Illini 24-17 here. I like the job that Jonathan Smith has done, but this Illinois team, you said it, Jacob, they're going to finish the year 8-4. I think this is one of those wins. They are at home. I like the Illini. Don't love them. Don't hate them. I like them. They're solid. I'll take the home team here by a touchdown.
Solid. That's the word you use. They're solid. They're a team that you don't necessarily want to play, but again, it's going to go down as the best win for Penn State, but nobody's going to give you credit for beating this Illinois team, but you'll get laughed at if you do not beat them, right? It's just one of those games. It's a lose-lose situation. Michigan State could use this type of a win, but I just don't think they get it. It won't be high scoring, but I do think it'll be a good game. Give me Illinois 27-23. I'll take Illinois to win. What is the line? Still 3-4 points as of right now?
I believe it is 4.5. I had them winning and covering, so I didn't.
Man, I'm on that line. You know what? I'll take Illinois to somehow cover that.
2.5. No, it's just 2.5. Just 2.5.
We're good. Yeah, I got Illinois to cover that. Not by much, but they will.
How about Penn State going to Purdue? Answer me this. Who's more likely to be on upset alert this week? Ohio State, neutral site against Northwestern, or Penn State at Purdue? Tough times for Ryan Walters. Does he survive this upcoming offseason? I don't know, because having a bad record that's worse than year one is one thing, but it looking like this is another. I've got Penn State 34-10 at Purdue.
In terms of the upset alert question, I want to say Ohio State's on a bigger upset alert because I trust Northwestern more.
I agree.
But in terms of Ohio State or Penn State and a game that you would think they could lose, I would pick James Franklin and Penn State. So I don't know. I'll say Ohio State because Purdue's so bad, man. They're so bad. And look, I've had to hedge my bet.
The joy that exuberates from your face when you say that.
I have said it so many times, but I've also had to hedge my bet because that would be the most devastating thing in the world if Indiana, win or lose to Ohio State, if you lose to Purdue. To get back to that conversation, if you lose to Ohio State and Purdue, we're done. Don't put us in the playoff. Don't even put us in a bowl game, man. The season would be a failure at that point. But no, I think Penn State will roll. I think they'll beat Purdue. Won't be pretty because it's Penn State football. It ain't pretty. But yeah, I'll take something, 35-3.
3 is entirely possible, even at home. I think that's a garbage time touchdown that I gave Purdue in my score prediction there. But in reality, though, the top 5 team most likely to lose this week in the Big Ten would be Oregon. Not just because it's the smallest point spread, but because they've got the toughest game. Wisconsin on the road by 14.5. I don't know how easy this is for Oregon. I don't know what it looks like, whether they're air-focused or run-focused against a Wisconsin defense that's been great against the pass, but has struggled defending the run, for an Oregon offense that's been solid but not elite running the football, really good throwing, but they don't have Tez Johnson. A lot of interesting factors here, but I think Oregon just finds a way to overwhelm Wisconsin at the end of it, and they cover 34-17. I'll swallow 14.5, even on the road.
Talk about a game that preseason, just with the logos, looked really, really good. And a game that I don't know how many times these teams have matched up historically. I'm going to guess not very many. And so
a couple of Rose Bowls in the last 15 years, New Year's Day 2012, New Year's Day 2020.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot about the 2020 New Year's Day. And so, look, this is a huge brand game. Oregon, Wisconsin at night in Madison. What a huge opportunity this would have been for the Badgers if they didn't have injury problems, if they didn't have a quarterback issue, and the year just has not gone their way. I'll take Oregon to win, but I hate 14 points being favored on the road again at night in Madison. Something smells wrong, man. And we always say if it smells like cologne, you just leave it alone. I ain't touching the game. I think Oregon will win, but they're going to have to earn it.
Finally, the sickos game of the week in the Big Ten. Rutgers at Maryland. Oh, a thumbs down from Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers, but I flipped a coin. I'm not even kidding. I flipped a coin. This game can go either way. I've seen both teams look decent. I've seen both teams look horrible. Rutgers, 21-20. 1-point game. It's like that. This could be a 2-point conversion for the win that goes awry. Missed field goal, something crazy. That's just what it feels like here.
You know what? Just for the sake of the show and just for fun, you picked, what'd you have? You had
I had Rutgers 21-20.
Yeah, I'll take Maryland going away. I'll take Maryland in a rout. Why? I have no reason whatsoever. They're favored by 5, so sure, why not? Maryland covers at home.
Jacob Goins, Locked On Hoosiers. Jacob, enjoyed as always, my man.
Thank you, brother.
The G5 playoff push is heating up. It's Boise State, but it's other teams too. You got to know about those because they're in action this week. Tulane with a huge game against Navy. It's coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. They're America's #1 sportsbook. They're not number 2, not number 3, not number 4. No, they are number 1. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL. They've got college football, too. Every game that I talk about on here is available to bet at FanDuel.com. It's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game watching the NFL or college, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, just go bet Ohio State to beat Northwestern. That could be your first $5 bet. You'll get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Do you understand how big of a week this is in the group of 5? Do you understand? Tulane has cracked the top 25, not in the AP's eyes, in the College Football Playoff Committee's eyes. Army is still unbeaten out there. Army's just armying. That's what they're doing. They're just battling along, and they keep on winning football games. But Boise State has got San Jose State this week. I don't have a huge upset alert meter. My spidey senses are not erupting in that sense. But San Jose State is a better team than I thought they would be. I didn't have them pegged as being over 500 right now. They're at home. Boise State's about a 2-touchdown favorite. I think the Broncos will be okay. I think the Broncos will be okay because, well, I haven't seen huge, major cracks just yet. But Army's off this week. But Boise State, they're the group of 5 favorite, right? They should be. They're the highest ranked. They're number 13 in the playoff rankings. Ashton Genty's great. They keep winning football games. They don't have to play great to win football games. But it's not the only group of 5 game that you should be paying attention to this week because there are a lot of other ones that are going to impact this race. Because if Boise State loses just one little old football game anywhere, their status as a lock into the playoff if they win the Mountain West, yeah, that goes out the window. It's not that they couldn't still get in, it's that they wouldn't be a lock. So every single week, high level of urgency for Boise State. But do you realize that Tulane goes to Navy this week? John Sumrall has taken over for Willie Fritz. He goes from Troy to Tulane. Fritz goes from Tulane to Houston, where he's winning more than people thought they would, and myself included, at least right away. I thought Willie Fritz would always be okay. I didn't think it would happen this quickly. They could make a bowl game this year. Crazy. They're at Arizona this week on Friday night. But Tulane goes to Navy. Now, Navy was once upon a time in the same category as Army, where it's, hey, they're an unbeaten service academy. How long can they keep this going? And I figured the service academies wouldn't be able to maintain their unbeaten streaks. I mean, Army has continued. Army and Navy will indeed play later this year, as they always do, in America's game. But Army has to go to Notre Dame next week. That's unbeaten Army against probably a one-loss Notre Dame team. But I'm fascinated by this Tulane and Navy game. Darian Mensah has been playing really good football this year. Had a couple of big turnovers against Kansas State, one in particular late in that game, or else Tulane would perhaps be ranked one spot behind Boise State. They could be ranked ahead of Boise State if they'd been able to win that football game. But he's got 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this year. He's already over 2,000 yards passing, having a really, really nice year. And Tulane's yet to lose a game in the American Conference. Navy has lost just the one. And so Tulane goes on the road to Annapolis. They're favored by a touchdown. I don't think they're covering that spread, but I think they're winning. Navy at home. Last time I liked Navy to cover but not win the game was against Notre Dame, and they got housed. If Tulane wins this football game, watch them go up in the rankings. Watch them go up. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I think they should just because they go on the road and beat Navy, but Navy's a solid team. Notre Dame got some credit for beating them, and I think they should have because Navy's a pretty good football team. So Tulane on the road. This is an early morning game, 12 o'clock Eastern, ESPN2. Give me Tulane to win 28-24 at Navy. And the Green Wave playing for their playoff hopes, which are very much alive. But there are still other games in the Group of 5 ranks that, you just need to keep your eye on. You know who's ranked inside the top 20 right now? Washington State. Yeah, that's right. Washington State goes to New Mexico this week, 45-20. I think the Cougars roll off a bye that was more well-timed for their Pac-12 brother in Oregon State than it was for the Cougs. Reports have swirled around about John Mateer getting $1 million offers in the NIL department or more. I hope that distraction doesn't leak into the season. I hope John Mateer sticks it out in Pullman because going into next season, if Washington State ends this year 11-1, narrowly misses the playoff, they can go into next year as a preseason top 25 team, and they can absolutely be a playoff contender from the start, rather than what they have become in the last several weeks, which is a bona fide playoff contender and getting that level of respect in the college football playoff ranking. So keep your eye on Washington State there. But here's another one. And this ties into Boise State very heavily. Do you know who the other unbeaten in the Mountain West is off the top of your head? Would it surprise you to hear that it's Colorado State? Yeah, it's Colorado State. They're hosting Wyoming this week. Wyoming isn't very good. Give me the Rams 34-20. They win that football game. But the other team that Boise State could match up with in the Mountain West Championship game who would potentially knock them off and knock them out of the 12-team college football playoff and open the door for an Army or a Tulane or, dare I say, a Louisiana and such out of the Sun Belt. Louisiana this week, by the way, they've got South Alabama. South Alabama, pretty good team. Pretty good team over there in the Sun Belt, capable of knocking them off. But Louisiana 5-0. Just keep an eye. Just keep an eye on the Raging Cajuns. Okay, that's all I want you to do is just be aware that they're playing football and they can sneak into that college football playoff discussion there. But if you're Boise State and Boise State fans, comment down below. You have 3 options here. You cannot say I'm not answering the question. So I want some answers from you guys. Who would you most want to play in the Mountain West Championship game? Do you want a rematch with UNLV? They play San Diego State this week. I've got the Rebels winning 38-20. Do you want to play UNLV again after you already beat them at their place earlier this season? Do you want to play Colorado State, who hasn't seen Boise State, but Boise State hasn't seen Colorado State yet either? And last year, the Rams got a pretty wild, crazy victory against the Broncos. Do you want that revenge? Or option 3, do you not care? Are you in the sort of mindset in which you say, okay, doesn't matter who we play. Doesn't matter. We're going to be able to show up and beat anybody in the Mountain West. The Broncos are a big favorite to win the Mountain West. And if they do, they'll be in the playoff. And Tulane, it doesn't matter what they do. I don't even think it matters what Army does. And does that suck for Army? Yeah, at some level it does. They could be an unbeaten and get left out of the playoff. Or this is a wild, crazy scenario. I'm just saying it's not entirely impossible here. What if the Group of 5 gets 2 teams in the college football playoff? Spencer, that's insane. Well, here are the things that would probably have to happen. Colorado lose at some point and not make the Big 12 championship game. And then BYU lose the Big 12 championship game to whoever they play. Might I remind you that the current rankings for the college football playoff with regards to Big 12 teams, they've got Kansas State at 16. And Army's sitting there at 24. Now, Army doesn't have a loss yet this year. They also don't have a super high quality win. Who is it they play again next week? Oh, that's right, Notre Dame. Notre Dame. It's not impossible is all I'm saying. Is it likely? No, absolutely not. It's very unlikely because while Army would pick up a win against Notre Dame if they were to go unbeaten and win the American Conference this year, and they would probably beat a team like Tulane or Memphis or someone in the American Conference Championship game, the Big 12 winner in this hypothetical would also pick up a win against BYU and would leap up in the rankings. But If after this week, if Colorado loses, which is entirely possible, I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, like we always say, crazier things have happened in college football. If Colorado loses and an Army next week beats Notre Dame, could Army vault up and that 0 in the loss column be given the legitimacy that they are seeking right now? They've already got some of it ranked 24th, but if they go beat Notre Dame, I tell you what, they could jump ahead of the Big 12 champion. But that would certainly, I think, be a bigger threat for Boise State than the Big 12 champ. I don't suspect the committee wants to put in 2 Group of 5 conference champions, but with the way the language is written, yes, it is technically possible. So keep your eye on those games, won't you? I hope you will, and I hope you enjoy the weekend. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.